Gardening is probably one of the most fulfilling activities you can do for your health and also for your own happiness. It helps you to get back to nature. As you see the crops grow, you actually touch base with your creator. It's so amazing. In fact, for me, it helps to release stress and tension to a large extent. Gardening actually is one of those activities that brings out the creativity in a person. Like in our last video, I highlighted a proposed plan on how we are going to reorganize the farm. And it has come out not exactly as planned, but a lot better. In fact, I'm so impressed by the work I have done. If you haven't watched it, kindly consider watching it before we continue. I don't know how the weather looks like wherever you're watching it from, but for me here on the slopes of the hills of Kilimambogo, which is in Machakos County, Kenya, Africa. And for those who do not know, Africa is a continent, not a country. It's very cold. In fact, extremely cold. But we just have to do what needs to be done. This is African Mom's World. Thank you for always coming back to watch our videos. I don't take it for granted. If you're a new person here, thank you for stopping by and kindly consider subscribing if this is the sort of content you like. Before we start today's video, maybe it's just good for me to mention that the cost of living in my country has become so high and the economy is not doing well. I just wonder whether it's only here or also in other parts of the world. Let me know in the comment section how it is on your side. In fact, it is for that reason and other reasons, of course, that the GNZs have been on the streets demonstrating. Here we call it maandamano. This is a good way to save some money. So gardening is something good. So wherever you are and on whatever scale, please try and do something. Just plant something in a garden, in a container, whatever. Please try. I spent an entire day on the farm, meaning I have amazing updates to give you. But this will not fit into one video, maybe 2 or 3. Kindly consider watching all of them for the amazing updates. So let's get into the video. So we started the day with harvesting. Our mulberry fruits are ready. Can you imagine? So short, so small, within a very short period. But here they are. They have turned pink, red, and eventually black. Just look at that. They look so beautiful, so nice. And I can't imagine beginning my gardening day with eating or harvesting. Just look at that. So sweet. Farming is just the best, especially the harvesting and the tasting part. Very nice. I am so impressed that the mulberries have done well at an expected time. I think it's around 3 months. So the garden had a lot of weeds. We had planted maize and cowpeas. So we just had to dig it up before we are able to put in any of the new crops that we had planted. So we started by just taking a section of it and digging it up. It hasn't become so hard or tough, so I'm enjoying digging the place. Since that's one of the things I love, digging, it's good exercise. So this is what I started the day with. So that it's easier for me to dig, the procedure would normally be for me to be able to remove the big stalks first. Because we have planted maize, it's so difficult for you to use the hoe to uproot them. So when they are already uprooted, it's much, much easier. So levelizing it is easy for me. So we had to remove some of the maize that was left. We planted a little, and actually there's a little that is remaining, but we still had to harvest it. They are so small, and so it's not so easy to harvest them. Actually, since I was alone, it took me quite a while. If they were big size, then it would be much easier. But I can't complain, because you remember we had a lot of floods. We had the El Nino, and I thank God that we've been able to at least boil some, roast some, and now this one we're going to eat with our famous food called githeri, maize and beans mixed. And yeah, so after removing the maize, then we uproot the maize stalks. I'm actually just doing it with my hands because they are not difficult to uproot. The ground is still soft because it rained, I think, a week ago, and now we are expecting more rains. So this preparation is quite important or quite necessary. So just uproot all the maize stalks and create a space so that it becomes easier for me to dig it up. So let's continue watching as I uproot and also just remove them from the farm so that I will be able to now go and use them for mulching, or if it's too much, then we'll have to put it in the compost. So after that, we uproot the cowpeas. So after ensuring that we've removed all the cowpeas, then now it's uprooting the stalks that remained. And these ones are quite many because we had a lot of cowpeas on the farm. If you have not watched the other videos, kindly consider going to watch and see how we harvested the cowpeas. It was very interesting and we had quite a large harvest. I think this year has been quite impressive. It was the first time for me to plant cowpeas, not for the leaves, but for the seeds, and it worked so well. So just as the maize stalks, then also the ones for the cowpeas, we have to remove them from the farm. Then we have enough good space to be able to dig up and plant new crops. So the next step was for us to be able to remove these pawpaw. Already on the farm, we have 4 adult male pawpaws, and their work is just for pollination. So I thought, now this young one, we still cannot have it on the farm. And it was doing well. It's quite healthy. The roots also it was firm. Let me say it was firm. But anyway, there's nothing we can do. Just uproot it, cut it into pieces, ensure that it has all come out from the soil. Then we dispose it. So it was also our first time to plant pumpkin, and they are all over. We have planted them all over. So like this one is growing just right next to this small pawpaw. And there are several of them that had grown. But we cannot keep them because there will be too much. Pumpkins take a lot of space. So even if they were doing well, we could not afford to have them. So we just had to let it go and leave the pawpaw. So we weeded the pawpaw so that the pumpkins can be able to give it space. Unfortunately, as I was throwing away the other male pawpaw, I actually hit this small pawpaw and removed the tip. I just hope that it is going to mature. It's going to grow. I hope it doesn't die. And so the next thing we did on the garden was to prune the trees. They had become so bushy. And you see, like, this is the grevillea. Grevillea trees are good because they do not affect the soil. Actually, they have some good humus that make the soil to be very fertile. So they are friendly to the crops. But the branches have grown so long and they are really low. So the best option was just to remove some of them so that we create some. It was providing actually a lot of shade. So even the cowpeas that grew beneath it were affected and they didn't do so well. So because the tree is growing well, I just had to remove some of the branches. And yeah, not so difficult to cut them off. So I didn't seek for any assistance. I could do this on my own because the branches are not very big. I mean, not so thick. With the machete that I had, or the panga, which we had sharpened, so it was quite easy. And I just removed some with my hands. Then after cutting them, I just put them into one big lump and was able to remove them and take them to the compost. Near it is also this pine tree. Just see how bushy it is. Very bushy. And this one actually provides a very big shade. And so I started right at the bottom of it where we had last pruned and just decided to remove as many branches as possible. These ones were a bit thick and it was a little more difficult than the grevillea one in cutting it. In fact, it was breaking at a very awkward place. So I had to be very careful so that I do not cut the tree itself. So there I had to go round and round just to ensure I have the right angle to be able to prune it. These are activities that anybody can be able to support, but I like doing my gardening myself unless things are very difficult. But at this point, yeah, I was able to do it, and I'm very happy when I'm able to do it on my own. Let me know how you prune your trees. Do you use this machete that I am using? And do you call it machete in your wherever you are? Or what do you call this sharp item that I'm using? It's not a knife. It's bigger than a knife. And it comes in quite handy. So after removing that, I moved to the next tree, which is actually the pawpaw. And this one, I was very careful because there are some leaves or branches that had already dried. And yet the tree also has a lot of pawpaws, young ones and those ones that are slightly bigger. So I was not able to remove many of those branches because I feared that I would interfere with the fruits. Because if you look at the way the pawpaw grows, at every leaf there is a pawpaw. So after removing that, I was able to clear the bottom, the ground where the pawpaws have grown. I slashed the weeds because they had grown very tall. And actually it was bushy. But the machete is quite sharp and it was so easy for me to remove these weeds. Just cutting them. And I had to clear this because you remember, if you have watched the other video, we were making a decision on which of the male trees to cut down. We had 4 plus the small one, that was 5. So we landed on this one and just see how bushy it is. So before I cut it down, I had to remove some of those branches so that I have enough space for me to be able to cut the tree. It's interesting how these branches with the flowers grew. They are also just so long. though the flowers are beautiful, but they grow thin and long. So after preparing the place or clearing the place so that I have ample space, now I got a good angle, considering the wall is near there and the banana is just right there. I had to take a nice angle and just cut the tree, the male pawpaw tree. This was quite painful because it has provided a shade, and I've actually been resisting to cut any of them for a long time. Remember, this is a semi-arid area, and any tree to grow to this length, it has taken a lot of watering and the rest. So finally, I cut it down. Interestingly, this is a very soft tree. I was also surprised how soft it is. It didn't take long for me to cut it down. Yeah, it had grown quite tall. Sadly, it had to go. Difficult decision, but there we are. Then I had to split it into smaller pieces so that I'm able to remove it from here and take it to the compost. So I just cut the stem, cut the branches, and even cut those flowers so that I'm able to carry it properly or carry it nicely without leaving so much of the rubbish here. One of the other things that surprised me is actually the stem of the pawpaw has a lot of water. No wonder it does not dry very quickly. We water them, but I don't think it's very necessary. Yeah, when you just look at it closely, there's a lot of water in it. Yeah, a lot of water. So watering it when it has grown, I don't think is necessary, unless otherwise. And I'm not surprised because where we stay, where we call Ukambani, the pawpaws do very well. So I also worked on our banana plantation. Let me call it a plantation. We really started far with these bananas, but they have done so well. So I put a lot of compost inside this banana so that it provides some form of manure. But when I put the pods for the cowpeas, it looked like termites were eating them, so we had to remove them. Then we also have some pumpkin that are growing here, which we will not remove because this is what we will use to eat the leaves. So I actually just weeded around it, and then because we had a lot of dry leaves, which makes the stalk looks difficult, no, look so bad. So I had to cut those ones that were drying on all of the bananas, and then chop the leaves and the dry leaves and those that were on sort of drying, then put them inside the banana itself. So I did that not only for one, but all of them actually. You know, like this one, the leaves were so many that were dry. And we just had to return some of them next to it so that it provides a sort of a mulch. Instead of us going to look for maybe grass, this did quite well. So I also pruned it, the dry leaves and those that were close to drying or resembled drying, and just put them back, including even the maize that had grown there. You see, even if something has grown one, like that maize that is there, I don't want to do away with it because definitely we are going to get a maize. Eventually there's going to be maize growing on it. So we also have pumpkin here, and we did not uproot it. We just weeded it, and now the place is looking quite good. I'm so happy at the pace at which it is going. Then this was our first banana ever. The hole is so big, but it was so dry. The leaves were so dry, many dry leaves. And so I just had to get some space and slowly cut some of those dried leaves. It also has a lot of suckers growing, but because it's the dry season, although I had planned to reduce them since it was overloading the whole banana, but I did not remove it because I thought removing at this time would give us a lot of trouble in watering it. So maybe when the rains are around, then we can prepare a hole and be able to remove some of those suckers. This took some time, quite some time, but it was worth it because it made it breathe. And even one of these bananas, the bigger one, there are signs that it's about to start producing a banana. So it's good just to clear it up. And if we get manure, we can be able to add. So at this time, it was just making the place look good and airy, removing the many weeds that were around it. And some were so short. So this is actually real exercise. You can see how much I've been bending since. And when it reached this point, I just had to crouch so that the work gets done. I never even felt tired. Farming is just the best. Thank you for watching to this point. I really appreciate you. And consider watching the next few episodes because it's just a continuation of what we have done on this farm. Thank you, and God bless you. Hope to see you on the next one. Kindly subscribe if you haven't done so and leave a sweet comment. Bye-bye.